Well, so the government says that the Thriving Kids Initiative is the first organization building foundational supports. I wonder what I've been doing for the last 2 years. I am the autistic founder of Autistic House, a registered Australian charity building foundational supports and autistic inclusive accommodation for autistic people. While I have been fighting to get off the ground, it is not even clear who in government to talk to about implementing this. State governments say they weren't consulted about this. Let me tell you about my model of autistic foundational supports. Now, my model is for adults, but it is also to mitigate growing NDIS costs because the NDIS is administered and delivered inefficiently. So we all have to build our own support teams and support networks individually to be delivered individually, and it costs additional for plan. If you look at everywhere where they're trying to reduce costs and reduce growth of the NDIS, it is in things like therapist transport, trying to restrict people from having access to meal preparation. These are areas that should be delivered as a foundational support, including for people with lower support needs. So our model is that the state government does need to pay for the construction of the housing, but the housing is to be built to autistic accessible standards, which I know we haven't really heard of in Australia, but that is a field of study. Autistic people have different needs in how we process spaces. We do not utilize heuristic filters like the majority population. So therefore, the majority of the infrastructure is inaccessible to us and even harms us and detracts from our capacity. So first of all, the actual housing itself is designed to not increase navigational fatigue. That is not accounted for in any care facility that I'm aware of in Australia, with or without the NDIS. Having your environment reduce your capacity increases your plan costs. We have designed a basic supports package. So this is for people with mild to moderate support needs who aren't eligible for NDIS access, as well as to mitigate costs for people who do have plans. With state government paying for costs of construction, as they have promised since the inception of the NDIS, residential accommodation fees then go into a pool of funds which pays for your basic supports package that includes one-on-one supports, food preparation, transport support, housekeeping. So that's then privately paid for, which means that A, there's no dictatorship of what supports are best for our own disabilities. 2, it means that we can accommodate for co-occurring conditions, which the NDIS does not allow for basically at all whatsoever. They do not have a holistic idea of how disabilities impact one another, and even if they do have your main registered disability, they won't even, or they are very reluctant, from personal experience, they are very reluctant to consider how that might interplay or, for example, restrict your ability to receive the standard care solutions for your specific disability. Meaning that, again, you have to have inefficient supports, which again blows out costs. So you don't have the hoop jumping, so you're receiving better private supports for what you actually need. This is designated to you, allotted to you, however many hours of support, one-to-one support, transport support, etc. is negotiable because we're not through NDIS. That is privately administered. So fundamental to this strategy is actually a mix of support needs in residence, which again isn't done anywhere. The autistic community is segregated by support needs, and that is why we don't really function together as a community efficiently, and why it limits the efficient deliverance of supports, especially for community building. Missing out on a lot of peer mentorship, peer connection, peer group activities by not having the entirety of the autistic community able to access each other. So in this same housing facility, we have low support needs autistic people who aren't able to access NDIS accessing foundational supports, which is the same means of people who do have higher support needs who access NDIS, reducing the cost of their plan. And all the government has to pay for is the building. At the moment, we're working on getting land. We can have land donated. The government can unlock land for us to build this. And what else is different is our entire board identifies as directly neurodivergent ourselves or as carers for neurodivergent people. It is entirely founded on lived experience as well as up-to-date contemporary research, which as a new charity, we have an advantage in being up to date because a lot of the charities and organizations out there dealing with and looking after autistic people have been established, which means that they're founded on research that is now debunked and less helpful. So we're in a really good position to take the contemporary research, which puts the old research, flips it on its head. Like, maybe it's not only a social deficit, maybe we're actually dealing with some things internally as well, like not having the filters. Also, if saving money is all they care about, our entire board is volunteer-led. Our whole board is volunteers, okay? None of us are paid for this. Whereas you have other charities out there, the average is, I think, $120,000 per board member per year for their income. Another factor, if you're still with us, of why we are more efficient and cost-effective is that because of the design of our buildings, which is only a 29% footprint of the total area. So while we are new, we're actually designed on old school principles of back to Quakers and even pre-Roman societies where you have communal facilities and then everybody has their own private, smaller accommodation. These are small homes, they're not tiny homes, and they're not normal size homes. They're small homes, enough for an adult to have a dignified, autonomous life with support. So only taking up 29% of land space, that means that we get to utilize new, more sustainable, more efficient methods of construction, such as 3D printing. And that being less disruptive means that we can have our established residents. We've got a 5-year growth plan. So we'll be starting with a smaller amount of residents, and then depending on the land package that we are able to get, we'll be building across the 5 years. And we are able, because we're using those newer, less disruptive, more sustainable construction techniques, we can happily construct while residents are there without disruption. Every single aspect of my model is watertight. And when we're looking at a future with a substantially rising water table, that's important. I have the experience, we all have the experience. I've coached someone through dangerous undereating of ARFID and behavioral concerns, which are much reduced now. And the carer for someone with very substantial level 3 support needs. I am up to date on the research. We are backed by Professor Tony Atwood and other insanely successful and compassionate professionals in the field. But sure, yeah, Thriving Kids is the only initiative towards foundational supports.